You know, back in 2023, Sam Altman made this really interesting
Oh,
prediction.
yeah, the one-person billion-dollar company.
Exactly. Sounded pretty out there back then, didn't it? But like, fast forward to now, 2025.
And things are definitely shifting.
Yeah, and according to Giant Seguto from Replit, whose work we're looking at today, it's not just AI driving this, it's something he calls agency.
Right. And
Yeah.
what's really striking is how Sagato argues this agency idea is becoming, the main thing separating people in the economy now.
More than skills or even education.
That's his argument, yeah, that it's becoming the critical factor.
Okay, so that's what we need to get into for this deep dive. What is this agency Sagato's talking about? And, how is AI changing its importance? And
Mhm.
really, for you listening, based on the stuff you shared, including Jan's piece, what does this all mean? Our mission here is to unpack agency and figure out what it signals for, well, for everyone.
Okay, so Sagato starts by talking about his own work building agents,
Mm.
AI programs.
Like tools that do things on their own.
Yeah, exactly. Things like coding or mapping out legal strategies, financial monitoring. He worked on that at Replit and other places. These things are pretty smart, pretty capable.
But he wasn't totally happy with that term, agent, right? Why was that?
Well, yeah, he felt it didn't quite capture it.
Yeah.
His point is that these AI agents, even the really good ones, are fundamentally reactive.
They just follow instructions.
Pretty much.
Right,
They're
so
fine. They can maneuver really well within those instructions, but they don't have that spark of independence. He even found that when they made AI coders more autonomous, users actually preferred the ones they could direct more explicitly.
okay. Interesting. So people want tools, not like unpredictable partner.
Kind of, yeah, they want that control, that predictability.
So if that's not agency, then what is he talking about? This sounds like the core of it.
Exactly. So for Sagato, true agency is different. It's more psychological. He calls it an unruly psychological trait.
And
You like a willingness to just act without waiting for someone to say go or give you a step-by-step plan or even permission.
just seeing something and doing it, that you can just do things idea.
That's it. That intrinsic drive.
He gave some pretty wild examples, didn't he? Like the VC founding an AI lab without the usual PhD.
Yeah. Or the gaming guy who pivots to military tech and the fintech CEO who basically jump-started the private space race.
Wow. Okay, so what connects them? It sounds like they're all rule breakers in a way.
There's definitely an element of defiance
Yeah.
and improvisation, relying on gut feeling, maybe even when it seems a bit irrational.
They don't wait for the green light from the system.
No, they often just build their own road.
Yeah.
And Sagato notes that while these people exist everywhere, they often gravitate towards environments with less structure, more potential impact, like startups.
Right, where they can really make waves. But okay, historically, even if you had all that drive, that agency, you were still just one person. There were limits, weren't there?
Oh, absolutely. Huge limits. Scaling yourself, your impact, almost impossible alone in a complex world.
So you had to specialize.
Exactly. You had to pour time and energy into becoming an expert in one specific thing. He talks about his own experience, taking 9 months just to build a basic prototype for a previous company.
9 months just for a prototype. Wow. That really hammers home the time cost of specializing.
It does. And that need for deep specialization, he argues, created a sort of local monopoly.
Meaning, like, if you were the expert, you had a protected turf.
Precisely. Your deep knowledge was your advantage. And society kind of rewarded that path, right? Credentials, degrees,
Yeah.
following the established route.
Yeah, you see that with college costs always going up.
Right. It reinforced the idea that deep expertise was the safe bet. And being a generalist, someone with broader but maybe shallower knowledge, that was often seen as a disadvantage.
Until now, maybe. Because AI comes along and he calls it a phase shift. How does AI mess with that old model?
Well, it dramatically cuts down the time and effort needed to get good enough at a lot of specialized tasks.
So that 9 month prototype effort.
He contrasts it with today. Now, maybe a non-specialist could build something even more advanced in, like, a week using AI tools,
Mm.
even without years of training.
That's a massive change.
It fundamentally changes the equation of what's possible for an individual.
Okay, but people are still skeptical about AI, right? It makes mistakes, can be sloppy. How does he account for that?
He definitely acknowledges that. He talks about a bimodal distribution, basically. Two main ways AI will likely be used.
Okay, 2 modes. What are they?
Mode one is in high-stakes areas. Think
Mhm.
defense, healthcare, space travel, core AI research, places where errors are really, really costly.
Yeah, you can't afford mistakes there.
Exactly.
Mm.
So in those fields, you'll still need specialized humans. Someone has to be accountable, Regulations will probably enforce that too. Makes sense.
Okay, so that's one mode. What's the other?
The other mode covers sectors where there's more room to, well, try again if the AI messes up.
Like what?
Things like data science, marketing, a lot of financial modeling, education, graphic design, even counseling or architecture to some extent.
Okay, fields where you can iterate.
Right. And that's where he sees this flood of non-specialized, high-agency people coming in and using AI really effectively.
And the AI keeps getting better, pushing out the need for deep human expertise further and further.
That's the idea. He points out how AI went from just, like, auto-completing code snippets to now understanding and generating whole projects.
Yeah.
It's a moving target.
So if deep specialization isn't the only winning strategy anymore, what is? What becomes more important?
It shifts towards understanding the high-level global picture.
Yeah.
Seeing the whole system.
Less about the tiny details of how to do something.
And more about the what and the why, the overall architecture, the strategy. And that's where generalists, especially those with high agency, can really shine. They connect the dots across different areas.
He gives some cool examples of this, right? Like professional lines blurring.
Totally. Product managers doing financial models, designers writing ad copy.
Didn't he mention barbershops building booking systems?
Yeah. And restaurant owners creating pricing tools, farmers making crop tracking systems. These people might have always had the ideas, the agency.
But the tools weren't there to act on them easily.
Exactly. The barrier to implementation, those years of learning, is just dramatically lower now.
Which leads straight to this idea of the solo founder, the super lean company.
Yeah, the numbers are pretty telling. Solo founder startups nearly doubling.
And that guy, Henri Shi, trying to build $1 billion company alone.
Right, and apparently hitting revenue per employee numbers that are just staggering, even compared to Apple.
Wow. And Midjourney, too. Tiny team, huge revenue.
Sagato sees Midjourney, like 40 people, $500 million in revenue, not as a freak occurrence, but as a sign of a real structural change.
Powered by these high-agency people doing the work of way bigger teams.
That's his take. It's the unraveling of credentialism, as he puts it.
So the edge isn't your diploma anymore. It's your bias towards action. Your willingness to just do it.
That seems to be the core message. He boils it down to this really simple divide: agency versus no agency. That's becoming the key differentiator.
But it won't be an easy switch overnight, right? He mentions resistance.
Oh, for sure. Institutions built on credentials aren't just going to evaporate. Think about universities, big corporate structures.
Middle management, maybe, where headcount used to equal importance.
Exactly. There'll be friction. Schools will need time to adapt. But he thinks market competition will ultimately force the change.
He also flags some downsides to the solo high agency model, doesn't he? Potential problems.
Yeah, he does. Like, things can get chaotic fast. If an error happens, especially with AI, it can cascade.
And there's no backup team, right? No redundancy.
Right. You're kind of flying without a net in some ways.
Yeah.
And even small stuff like getting taxes wrong could be a big deal for a solo operator.
So challenges exist, but overall, he thinks these entrepreneurs will still win out.
That's his conclusion, yeah. Despite the risks, they'll be highly competitive.
Okay, but here's maybe the most hopeful part. He says agency isn't fixed. It's not something you're just born with or without.
Exactly. That's crucial. He really stresses that it's an internal state, something you can actually cultivate, learn, adopt.
By letting go of limitations.
Pretty much. Freeing yourself from those artificial constraints we put on ourselves, needing a certain degree or X years of experience before we feel allowed to try something.
He used that Matrix quote, didn't he? About the air you breathe.
Yeah. Morpheus asking Neo, do you think that's air you're breathing now? It's about questioning the limits we just assume are real.
Challenging those assumptions.
Right. And often, he suggests, the hardest part is just believing you have the freedom to act, taking that first step.
Okay, so wrapping this up. Looking at Sagato's ideas, it feels like AI's impact is way bigger than just automation.
Much bigger. It's like it's amplifying this human trait agency, and that's what's really shaking up the economy, our ideas about careers, about expertise.
The power is shifting towards the individual's ability to just make things happen, to implement ideas.
Which, for you listening,
Yeah.
brings up some big questions,
Yeah.
right? Like, how much agency do you feel you have right now?
And what doors might this shift be opening up for you in your work, your learning, whatever you're pursuing?
Yeah.
And maybe the final thought to leave you with is this. If those old barriers needing specific skills, credentials, huge teams are eroding, what could you actually build or achieve now? Something that maybe seemed impossible before.
It really makes you think differently about learning, too, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What skills matter most going forward?
Absolutely. It's a fascinating, maybe slightly scary, but definitely transformative time. And that power to act, to shape your path, it might be more accessible than ever.